Well, good afternoon, everyone. How nice to see you, and it's nice to see an almost full auditorium today. We have a few empty seats up here. We'll have to work to fill those up. I'm Arthur Guilford. I'm the Regional Chancellor for the University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee campus, and it's my privilege to welcome you here. We're in not only very exciting times for our School of Hotel and Restaurant Management, but we're in very exciting times for our university. We have traditionally been an upper division and graduate program only, and that's going to be changing. It's actually changing next fall when we'll be admitting our first sophomore students, and then the fall of 2013 we'll admit our first freshmen. So we'll be your comprehensive four-year institution right here in Sarasota and Manatee counties. Now, having said that, how I'm going to accomplish that with a zero budget is a little bit tricky, but we'll somehow manage to do that. There are many other things that are going on. We've completed our master plan. It's looking beautiful. You won't recognize this campus in 5 years from now, and in 10 years from now, you'll clearly not recognize it. But you're not here to hear me talk about this wonderful campus as much as I'd like to do it. But let me tell you that I am incredibly pleased with what our new Dean of Hotel and Restaurant Management has been able to accomplish. And he's come into this with his eyes wide open, his, I think, hands wide open as well, but he really is doing just a phenomenal job. And you're not going to recognize the School of Hotel and Restaurant Management in probably 2 to 3 years, because it's going to take on such a different look, such different goals and aspirations. So I am just delighted. I was delighted when we hired our new dean, Jihan, and I'm even more delighted now that I've seen him work. So please welcome me and welcome our dean.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guilford. Welcome. I am so nervous. Normally, I'm not like this, but I don't know. It's so amazing and emotional to see this level of support from our industrial partners and our students and all of our supporters of the school. So welcome to Linda Novi White lectureship series. My name is Jihan Chobanoglu, as Dr. Guilford have said. I would like to say a couple of words about our school. And as everybody knows, without the support of the executive level in any organization, it's not possible to achieve anything. For that reason, I would like to thank Dr. Guilford and Dr. Jones for their support to our school. It means a lot. That's the reason why we get the motivation to go into the next level. With that, I would like to also acknowledge our founding dean, Jay Shrak. He's not here. He's in Istanbul, actually, Turkey right now. And for those of you who know Jay, he is actually covered with about 3-foot snow. And Istanbul is going through the winter that has never happened before. It's the coldest winter in the history of Istanbul, to his luck. So he is enjoying his home a lot. But he sends his regards to you. And also I would like to tell you that a little bit about Linda Novi White. Linda Novi White Memorial Lectureship Series was created to celebrate, recognize, and honor the amazing contributions that Miss Novi White made to customer service and hospitality industry. She was the founder of Linda Novi Enterprises, and a customer service icon in the hospitality industry. She has her clients included Ritz-Carlton, Marriott, and Omni Hotels, so and so on. So we are very pleased to honor her legacy here at the School of Hotel and Restaurant Management. I would like to tell you that Jay, as the founding dean, has set a wonderful stage for us. Now, when they hired me as a faculty member, and then Jay decided to take a sabbatical, and when they asked me to take over as the dean, and everybody said that, Jihan, you're going to take the school to the next level with the team. I said, absolutely. What does that mean? What is the next step? What is that dream composed of? I will tell a little bit about it. Our vision, the faculty of our school came together last fall, just after I became the dean. We created a vision. Our vision of the school is to be leader, and I underline leader, the word leader, which is what we're going to talk here actually today, in global hospitality education, innovation, and research. We are doing a lot of things to live up up to that vision, because that's where we want to go. One of the things that I would like to announce here is that we are creating a new college. Actually, School of Hotel and Restaurant Management is going to be restructured under a new college that we just created. It's called College of Hospitality and Technology Leadership. We on purposely replaced the word management in our title with leadership, because we believe that leadership is the next level that a manager can achieve. And we are doing a lot of things to achieve that. And then, of course, we take the information technology department under new college, and we are doing a lot of great things together. And some of the other things, exciting things that we are doing, we are reviewing our curriculum as we speak. And I am so delighted to see many, almost all of our advisory board members that are here. Actually, March 8th, we're going to put them to work. They will help us review our curriculum that's coming up. We have 3 active student clubs. I don't know if you have seen, but there were some pictures over there. We have Hospitality Society, Hospitality Financial and Technology Professionals, National Society of Minorities in Hospitality. And let me tell you something. I didn't start these clubs. The students came to me and said that, Dr. Jihan, we want to start this club. Can you help us? Absolutely. Look at that. That's great. The leadership initiative is coming from the students. So they are in the works. We're going to create more student clubs like the Club Managers Association of America, Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International, Marketing Professionals International clubs are just some examples that are coming up. Our students are doing amazing work. You have seen some of the pictures. I am so impressed with them, their motivation. One example I will give you, the Ritz-Carlton Sarasota, which is our partner. We love Ritz-Carlton Sarasota here. And the new general manager, Brett Jenks, actually asked us to help with a project. Our students are helping them to actually come up with a focus group and some surveys to help them with their restaurant, Vernona. And another group of students are helping Marriott Innovation Group at the headquarters to design the futuristic hotel room. Actually, we're going to use this Ritz-Carlton here as a test bed, and the room is going to be called Futuristic. No wonder why. So, and the students are working on that. For the first time, our students are working to actually plan, prepare, organize, execute a 3-course dinner. And please mark your calendars, because they are going to present you a wonderful dinner on April 25th, 2012 at IMG Academy Golf and Country Club. And the IMG Academy Country Club is a great partner, obviously. They let us, we don't have a facility on this campus. They let us use their facilities. So all of you are invited to that exciting dinner, which we will also use as a fundraising platform for our school. Our students are everywhere. They attend New York Hotel Motel Show, National Restaurant Association Show in Chicago, Florida Restaurant Lodging Association Show in Orlando, Food Service Technology Conference, Multi-Unit Restaurant Technology Conference in Las Vegas, so on. They are everywhere. We would like, because we believe that learning just doesn't happen in the classroom. A lot of learning happens outside of the classroom. For that, we are very, very happy that they are very active. And as you know, all of these takes a village. We can't do it without support, without our supporters, just like Mr. Ed Fuller here, who took the time 2 full days from his schedule to come here. As a matter of fact, this morning, you should see him. We picked him, John Walker, Dr. Walker and I picked him up from the airport. By the time we were coming here, he was all the questions. We had full of questions. We asked him probably 2,000 questions. He had an answer for us. Then our students took him to the lunch again. He asked all the questions. Students asked him. Amazing time, amazing learning. And of course, we're going to continue the learning here. So I would like to thank people like him, and also I would like to thank our advisory board members, which I mentioned before. Many of them are here for their support and insights. I would like to acknowledge some of them, some of the people who have helped us with this particular event. The general manager of Ritz-Carlton, Mr. Brett Jenks, for sponsoring our reception beverages, which we're going to have right after the event outside here. I would like to thank Manatee Technical Institute, Dr. Mary Contrell, and amazing chef, Colpitz, who's outside right now preparing our reception food. He is just amazing. I would like to thank them double, because not only they are helping us with the reception, but also they are hosting our food prep class. Since we don't have a facility, again, we need some help there, but they are helping us, allowing us to use their facilities for our food preparation class, which will, by the way, put this dinner in April 25th. And also I would like to thank our students who helped tremendously with this event, our faculty, club members, And of course, a huge thanks goes to Amanda and Holly. Holly just joined our team. Amazing ladies. I love both of them. I couldn't do anything without them. Thank you so much to you. And I'm very lucky to be surrounded by them. Now, back to the main reason. I know I talked a lot, but we are so excited to tell you all these things that we are doing. Back to the main reason, Mr. Ed Fuller. When I was thinking about who should or how I should introduce Mr. Ed Fuller, I said that I thought of an amazing man who can do probably 6 million times better job than I would. And that's why I called Mr. John McKibben. And Mr. John McKibben means a lot to our school. One, he is an advisory board member. Second, he is the biggest gift donor for our school. Therefore, Dr. Walker actually holds McKibben professorship. He endowed a chair. And obviously, I'm not going to hold this against him. He actually gave a pose with the bull sign a little bit ago. He is a graduate of FIU, but the little small school in Miami there. But he did that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to send that picture to the dean of FIU Hotel School. So no more FIU. But I would like to invite Mr. John McKibben to introduce Ed Fuller. Mr. Ed Fuller, please, John.
Okay, well, before I introduce Ed, and please don't send that to FIU. You'll get me in big trouble. But I live in Tampa now, so I started getting to know some of the folks from USF Hotel School. And before we start, I want to, you do have an envelope, each of you have an envelope in your seat. And as my board of directors is here today, and on my board of directors is also my pastor, and he says, John, you take up the offering before the speech. So everyone has an envelope. I will say, in all seriousness, that raising money for the school is so critical now. The funding, as you have probably heard from the state, is really getting cut back. And actually, the state is looking for all the universities to become self-supporting at some point not too far out there. So it's real critical. But yes, I did make a gift, and it was early on. And listen, Dr. Guilford, you know, if you could see what the university was going to be like, well, you should have seen it when I first came here. And I was able to get a professorship with my gift. Today they would say, well, John, it's going to cost you about 4 times more to get that. So things have really grown here, but you haven't seen anything yet. It's very exciting. I highly encourage you to make a gift. Start now. Because this is going to be really big, and I know you want to be part of that. But now to our speaker. You may have seen George Clooney, who was in the Academy Awards on Sunday, and he and our speaker actually have something in common. He is George Clooney, if you remember his movie Up in the Air, and his character was on a mission to rack up 1 million frequent flyer miles. But he was really doing it, you know, to earn all the perks and having his name painted on the fuselage. Well, actually, in the 1990s, Ed Fuller did just that. He reached the 10 million mile mark, circling the globe many times as Marriott's president of international lodging. But unlike Clooney, Ed traveled not for the perks, but because of his philosophy on doing business in person. And yes, Ed does have his name on a plane, United Airlines. So, going back to 1971, Ed was serving in the U.S. Army, and while he was there, he was really beautiful. It's a beautiful country, and he was admiring all of the beaches there and said, you know, one day I'd love to have hotels on these beaches here. This is such a beautiful place. Well, little did he know, a year later he joins Marriott as a manager trainee, and he worked in various positions to become the president of international lodging. He couldn't have imagined when he was there in Vietnam that he would oversee Marriott International's growth from 16 hotels when he started, doing $325 million in revenue, to 410 hotels in 70 countries, doing $7 billion in revenue. And there's another 150, 200 hotels in the pipeline, which he'll count those in his scorecard too, no doubt. But anyways, since joining Marriott in In 1972, Ed has seen his company grow into one of the most recognized hotel brands in the world. But little known fact, actually his career was almost cut short. When he was the GM of a Marriott hotel, his staff served a cold hamburger to the Marriott family, since he just assumed that the family would be going out to dinner that night, only finding out the next day they had dined at his hotel. So 30 years later, Mr. Marriott still reminds Ed about that cold hamburger that he served him. Ed has been the recipient of a number of awards. He's a graduate from Boston University, but in 1999, he received the Marriott Chairman's Award. He received the Atatha Ratna Award at the Hotel Investment Forum in India, the Lifetime Achievement Award, the 2010 China Hotel Investment Summit. In early March, he will be awarded the 2012 Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Hotel Investment Forum. But probably the most important for Ed is his leadership in Marriott's executive team when they were ranked as Fortune magazine's 100 best companies in the world. Because with Ed, it's all about relationships. Doing deals with people from many different cultures around the world is a monumental task, which is described in Ed's first book titled, that's amazing, they have this sitting right here for me to pick up. You Can't Leave with Your Feet on the Desk. In the book, he shares his insights on how and why trust and loyalty built on personal relationships are the basis of long-term success in any business or industry. And it's a must-read book that actually, when it came out, I heard about it and I bought it that day, and it's really a fun book to read. He's got some great stories, and you'll hear about those in just a minute. But I've known Ed for a number of years, and even with his impossible schedule, if I send him an email and say, Ed, I'm going to Indonesia, where should I stay? He'll respond back to me personally. Now that is amazing that he takes that time to do that. So with that, please welcome a man I'm really proud to call my friend, Mr. Ed Fuller.
Thank you, sir. I've got to hire him to work as a salesman for Marriott. You know, he's really got that pattern going really good. Thank you, sir. Very kind words. I'm very glad to be with you here today. It's both an honor and a pleasure. And I'm not here to sell my book. Hopefully you'll take advantage of it if you're interested. But I am here to share some factors, especially in our industry. And I'm feeling a little more comfortable as I look around the room. Monday, I was speaking to the FBI in Washington, who have adapted the book, and they were all armed. And so I hope you folks have left your weapons at home, because we didn't have you go through a metal detector coming in the door. But those folks were definitely packing, so I'm here to talk about it, so I think I got out okay. And hopefully I will do the same for you. I'm here to, number one, talk to the students to remind them that they have made the first great decision by participating in this institution's hotel program. Now, it's going to be called hospitality, and I think that's a critical parlance because, frankly, this business, this industry, is not just hotels. I think about hotels day in, day out. But the fact is that our travel industry impacts more people than we really think about it. And you know, we've got a problem in the United States right now because our share of global travel has dropped after 9/11 from 17% down to 12%. And we have finally convinced government that the best stimulus package they can develop is to bring international travelers to the United States. It is an export, if you think about it, because when an international traveler comes to the United States, They leave their currency not only in the hotel, but in the restaurants, in the cabs, in the various shops that surround us. And we have left a great deal of money not being utilized by not having travel grow. It is an important industry, and it is an industry that is growing tremendously. So if you're a student, this is good news. You have picked the right industry. This is the #1 growth industry in the world today. Now, if we in America, and we have a new program called US Brands that has just been developed to promote the United States to global visitors, if we in the United States take advantage of this, we will get our great share. But the world today is changing at a tremendous pace. Middle classes are evolving, not only in China, but in other countries. And travel, therefore, is the opium of the middle class. Everybody wants to see what's out there. This is a great opportunity for us. There is a concern, though. We as Americans need to get out and do some traveling ourselves. Regretfully, before 9/11, only 15% of the population of the United States had passports. 15%. After 9/11, the number went up to 25 because we needed passports to go to the Caribbean, Mexico, and Canada. But only 15% have actually gone out and experienced the rest of the world. And it is really important to do that from a number of positions. Number one, it's essential if you're going to understand a country to go out and meet the people. Now, luckily, in this program, we have individuals from all over the world, and that helps with the interaction. But the most exciting part of traveling is getting to meet the people, experiencing what's out there. And I would encourage you, and I would encourage everybody to take advantage of that. But let's go back to our business in the program at hand. We've got a lot of things going on in the world today. And one is that our industry is going through tremendous change. So today I'm going to spend a few minutes on the industry, a few minutes on leadership, and I'm going to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart about culture. I will add a few Marriott advertisements in between, and hopefully they won't be too heavy-handed in the process. But the fact is that our industry today is facing a challenge. It's a challenge of growth, it's a challenge of economics, and it's a challenge that you see in any business, because the hotel industry, the hotels are a business like anything else. And John McKibben will tell you it's a business start to finish. It's a special kind of business, though. It's a very special kind of business because it requires different skills and different resources. My feeling about where we're going today is that we have to be fast to change with what is going on. And clearly, right now, you will find that the changes are not just where you expect them. Technology is doing the usual thing. It's giving us new tools. It's important that we utilize them. But in our industry, it's essential that we don't forget that we're all about the people. Our industry is about touching people, giving them the experience. And we cannot do that in a robotic environment. It's got to be personal. We also are facing challenges with technology to make sure that it's user-friendly. Our biggest problem is when we invent a computer program that has the front desk clerk looking down through the whole process and never looking at the customer's eyes. We have to have the technology and the knowledge put together so that it's a service to the customer. And we are trying to do that in every way. Marketing is changing. Sales and marketing has become critical because share is truly what we focus on. And in a global world, marketing is going to be different. State of California has just created a program to say, are you ready to take care of the Chinese? Why? Well, the markets are changing. For years, the #1 traveling public, even after I told you about that 15% had passports in the world, were us, the Americans. We were the largest traveling public, followed by the Brits, the Germans, the Japanese, and the French. And occasionally they intertwined, but the Americans were always #1. And they have had a switch. Today, the #3 traveling public are the Chinese, right behind the Germans and behind us. In 5 years, the Chinese will be the second largest traveling public. And in 5 more years, and I bet you it won't even be 10 years from now, the Chinese will be the #1 traveling public in the world. Now, Mr. Obama came down to Orlando, made an announcement about making visas easier to get in. This country is going to need to get prepared, and our industry is going to need to get prepared to take care of those customers. We're going to need to be sensitive to their needs. We're going to need to be sure that we can accommodate their foods, their language, and the like. And I was in Honolulu Friday night, and our general managers were explaining that they had just gotten a lion's share of major groups coming into the Honolulu Marriotts because we had Mandarin speakers ready to work with their wholesalers. That made a competitive difference, and it enabled us to get the share of the market that the other hotels did not. That kind of forward thinking, the thinking that California is doing to get their hotels and their various businesses ready for the coming future, is critical. And it's not just the Chinese. The Russians are coming. Some of them are already here in the class and in the faculty. But the fact is that they are coming, and they bring good business. It is going to be a global customer that sets part of this country's economy back on its feet, and it's an important step. Now, tools to be focused in these markets are many, but for us, by the way, this is the advertisement, so if you're not confused, if it doesn't sound like an advertisement, this is an advertisement. Don't want those Hyde guys to get ahead of me, right? I've got to get out there and push a little. So Marriott is focused on these markets, and we are trying to use every technique. Now, for years, we've had the strongest reservation system, and we had it because we built it based on an airline system, which gave the travel agent the last room available and gave the travel agent the fastest response with a confirmation number. And for years, we've dominated that market. Recently, a gentleman named Shafiq Khan, who I'm very proud of, headed up our focus on the internet. And when the internet wasn't popular and we were still walking around the corporate halls going, the what? Shafiq was going, this is what you got to think about. And he and a gentleman named Bruce Wolf really focused us to look at the internet. Today, Marriott, this is still an ad, Marriott is the #7 volume producer on the internet. Not 7 against hotels, 7 against all businesses. Our $8 billion in sales on the internet is purposely done. It is a significant step. The next closest company, which I will not mention, is 29th. We are competing against Amazon and others in that field. Staying ahead of the game is a principle that we're trying to embrace with all of our effort. And in the internet, we're there. The problem is the next one is social media. The technology is moving so fast, and we have a couple of PhDs and master's folks locked in a room in Washington, sitting there trying to figure out what to do with social media. Because this technology is moving fast, and so are the demands of you, the customers. And they are going to continue to move fast. So things like Marriott Rewards, which we now have, I think, 32 million participants in, and that could change by the next hour, have given us a great advantage. But we cannot stop with that particular step. We have to keep moving on. And marketing globally gets even more exciting because it's a relationship market international. It's a much more personal market. And we're having to do it differently in different countries. And again, we have to be prepared to bring those countries into the US market as that growth returns. So we've talked about some of those changes, but I want to talk about one more change before I get into the leadership issue. Our industry has evolved. I see a little gray hair like mine in here, but most of you don't remember Marriott in the early days. We owned every hotel when I joined in 1972. If you wanted to get a carpet fixed, you had to go get Bill Marriott to convince him that the carpet was dirty. Not dirty from dirt, but dirty from age. And if you wanted something changed, he owned the hotel, you got him to change it. Those days changed in the 1980s when a CFO named Gary Wilson talked us into management contracts. And the industry was changing. I'm not here to tell you we were the only ones doing it at that point. The industry was changing. And we moved from ownership to management contracts. And for people that we hired, and I was still a rookie, we started moving up the ladder and growing with the company, and we started bringing in people from hotel schools and programs because this industry was hot in the 80s. And it got really exciting as we started building our own hotels until we hit the wall in late 80s, early 90s. And then we were left with assets that we could not sell to other people, and our growth was stymied. Another CFO, Bill Shaw, got us through that particular period of time, which was very challenging in cash flow. And we moved into the 90s, and a fellow named Bolenbach gave us a vision of clearly taking all ownership, removing ownership into owned companies, REITs and the like, and leaving management on the management side. And that has been tremendously successful for us and has been our model as we moved into 2000. With that change, growth has continued to be the imperative, which has made franchising the next move. And for the graduates, there is a tail to this story. For the graduates, this means that the traditional route to one of the major chains is not the route that is all the way to go, but there are now companies, such as McKibben, that are owning franchises, and they own a lot of Marriotts and some of those other companies, and they have the opportunity for operators. And those opportunities with those companies are going to be great also. Brand companies like Marriott, Hilton, Starwood, yes, I said them, I had to practice, Hyatt, Wyndham, those companies are going to have smaller operating focus, but are truly going to become the brand companies of the future. And the operating companies are going to be doing the operating. So as a student, you have a choice. If you love operations, you will probably be working for one of these operating companies. And you might say, well, you know, you made so much money in Marriott. That's not necessarily true. You know, and I've answered the question before. I said, yeah, I get to fly around and coach in big commercial aircraft. But I said, most of the owners of these operating companies are flying around their own private jets. So these operating companies have a lot of things going for them. And so that side of the industry is pretty exciting. So I suggest that in a career, if you like operations, you've got choices. And this is wonderful because these operating companies are growing. If you're interested in the global world or you're an international student, we are still doing management overseas at an 80-20 ratio, but there are tremendous opportunities there. And if you want to work for a corporate company, there are some advantages there, but my last message here is that if you're going to work for a corporate company in the new world, you're going to need a Master's of Business Administration. I said this at CRE in Denver to all the deans. I mean it very sincerely. 10 years ago, if you asked me that, I would have said no. Just don't worry about it. Move on. But the business model is getting sophisticated, challenging, and that master's in marketing or finance is going to become very critical in the new world. So a lot of change in our industry. And leadership in that industry is still going to be the challenge. And a lot of the principles of good leadership come back to the people. I don't care whether you're in a operation with cubes or in a hotel operation or working in the field, your leadership skills are what sets you aside. Somebody today asked me about being able to get out there and get a lead in the business, and I said, you've got to do your job well, and above all, you need to be a leader. Everybody who is going to get ahead has got to take a leadership role on. I tell a story in the book about Sergeant James. When I was in Boston University, I had to pay for my apartment, so I worked as a Pinkerton guard in Boston at the Prudential Center. One night I found myself in the corner with 3 big burly kids trying to give me a hard time, and all I had was a rosewood nightstick and me. The tin badge did not help. And I had a boss. His name was Sergeant James. He had a 6th grade education. 6th grade education. He had been in the Army for 20 years, hadn't gotten past E3, so he got in a lot of bar fights. He was quite a character. Every other word was an expletive, deleted. So when I tell this story, I have to be very careful because I can remember his exact words. So I'm down there kind of getting pushed around, and all of a sudden I hear from way up above, Fuller, blank, 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 do, blank, 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 something, blank, 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 blank. Just do something. And Sergeant, by the way, I took out the nightstick, found the biggest guy, stuck him in the stomach with it. He kind of doubled over. The 3 of them ran away, and I walked away. Now, I'm not here to recommend that action in this day and age, but Sergeant James sat me down and in a rather long discussion, because of all the expletives, said to me, all you college kids are the same. You sit and think about things, but you never act. And I think my wording was even more sophisticated than his. But Sergeant James goes with me everywhere, because somewhere in your role, you have to make a decision. But that means your boss has to give you the confidence that they're going to back your decision making. And you have to make a bond with your people, whether you're the boss or you're the employee, that you have the right to take risks. You have the right and the empowerment to help that customer at the desk. You have the right to replace that lobster with a steak because the kitchen made an error, instead of telling the customer they better eat it and like it. So the fact is that you have to have that leadership in whatever role you take on. And it's truly, truly important. In our world, we all too often get bogged down in the bureaucracy of trying to do the right thing. We all try to do the right thing. But sometimes we don't focus on what the real objective is and what the real need is. We get caught up in what some of the process is. And I've been told that process is very, very important, and I believe that. But somewhere along the line, we have to make decisions, and we have to move the dime, and we have to change the name, or we have to get the new staff, and we have to make things happen for the good of whatever we're doing. It's important to have a company, an organization that allows you to do that. And in Marriott, here he goes again. In Marriott, part of our culture includes that. Now, it's important to note that when I talk about Marriott, I'm talking about 40 years with a company that I can say confidently I understand the principles. On the edge of this, we've made mistakes. We make mistakes. I'm going to get a little idealistic on you here, but the fact is we have principles that we work under. And I am a big believer, as you are as students, as you get your graduation and choose your job, not the temporary job you may be in or the internship you're in, it's important for you to know the company you're joining, either large or small. And you need to ask about the company's culture. Now, people go, culture, is that a biology term? No, the company culture. Culture today is the most important thing. And candidly, this is what I was talking with the FBI about a lot yesterday, or Monday, is the fact that the culture of the organization sets most of the rules. It establishes what is important and how you get the job done. In Marriott, we have a principle. Take care of the associate will take care of the customer, and the customer will come back again and again. We have a focus on our associates, and it's so important to us that for 40 years we've talked about it. I talk about it, Bill Marriott talks about it, people all the way up and down the line talk about it. Talk is cheap. The actions have to step forward and reinforce that. And when managers fail to do that, we have to step in and reinforce it. Now, there are a lot of great principles in our corporate values, and I'm not talking about our brand promises. Ritz-Carlton, ladies and gentlemen, taking care of ladies and gentlemen. Or Courtyard, you know, if you've ever, we're very good about trying to establish our brand strategy and our brand promises around some brand values. So you go to a Ritz-Carlton meeting and everybody's got on their cufflinks and the ladies are in their black suits and they're looking really crisp. You go to a Courtyard meeting, they're dressed up as fruits and vegetables and cheering, and silly string is going around the room. And I showed up in New Orleans one year for my first Courtyard meeting, And I had 6 Chinese GMs with me. It was going to be their first one. We stepped downstairs. The theme was gumbo, and everybody was dressed up like food. And I'm told, Marcia tells me I stood there with my mouth open. The 6 Chinese turned around. It took us 2 days to get them back downstairs again. The next year, they were dressed up as trees, because they finally understood the culture was to be fun, not the Ritz-Carlton. It was a different culture for that brand. So I'm talking, though, about the company culture and the take care of associates being so critical because of the payback. And if you're ever going to try to pick a value and really reinforce it, Marriott has the solution. For 40 years, the full time I've been with the company, we have had an employee opinion survey. And that employee opinion survey is used as a tool to help solve problems. If something's wrong, and you can get a bad one, we at least know where we need to go help that management in the operation to correct their problems. If it repeats itself, you've got a clear indication you've got a problem and you need to deal with it. But the employee gets feedback, and it's done by a third party, so it's not risk to the associate. And where does that number wind up? Well, I have 80,000 people in the international division, and their results are on my bonus, and the regional vice president's bonus, and the general manager's bonus. So you kind of understand that that's a value you got to focus on. If there was any doubt and you hadn't bought the conversation, you've at least bought the fact that the company says this is important. But I'll tell you a story. And I know the system works for taking care of the associate. I've seen it work well. But we recently had a demonstration which, for me, was as strong a demonstration as I've ever seen. This is not in the book because this last year has been an interesting year, and the book was written a year before that. So I don't know where you were, or even if it was significant to you, the day that Cairo started to boil over. But Egypt was in trouble. I was in a strategy meeting in Washington. I went to my boss and said, I think we got to go. And so I grabbed my COO and we headed to Dubai. We arrived on February 4th. Things were still pretty hot. Tanks were in the street. It was the easiest traffic because there was nothing but military. And the riots were still in the square. Now, Marriott has almost 4,000 hotels today. We've grown. But in Egypt, we have 7 open and 5 under construction. And the 7, we have 4,000 associates. They're Egyptian. There are a few Europeans mixed in. There are a few other nationalities, but they're primarily Egyptian. We did this with Thailand when the Reds and the Yellows were fighting. We've dealt with this in other environments. But we went to each of our 7 hotels, and we had to bring in a jet. We couldn't use commercial. It was closed down, so we had to hire a jet. They would not stay in Egypt at night, so they'd drop us at the various locations and then fly to Jordan, then come back and pick us up in the morning. And 4 of us went around, and we shook hands with as many of our associates as we could. Just shook hands. Smile on our face, handshake. That simple. I think I shook hands with almost 2,000 associates. Some had gone home. Some were on different shifts when I was not there. We then met with our owners, who were very comfortable because we were there saying, we'll be here with you. Don't worry. We'll make sure everything goes on. We then met with our managers, and this was really critical. because it was important to sit and listen to them. Not talk to them, listen to them. Not talk about, what the occupancy wasn't, because it was pretty empty. Not talk about the food supplies. Listen to what was going on in their lives. What's happening at home? How's your wife? How are the kids? Everybody okay? What's going on in your mind? What do you think's happening? They wanted to talk. And we did that at each of the 7 hotels. The last hotel we got to was downtown Cairo, which things were happening around. And we sat with the managers, and I've been back this year, I was there for the 25th. When we sat with the managers in that 11 days we spent in Egypt, they were quick to tell us about a story. On the 2nd, you may or may not remember this, Minister of Interior pulled all the police off the street. Well, the police were the only guns at the gates of our hotel. And we had howling crowds outside because we had press and other customers in our hotel. In the Cairo Marriott, 1,200 rooms, we actually were running 600 rooms of guests. And most of them were press, except for Anderson Cooper, who was at an undisclosed location, which was the Ramses Hilton, because I've seen the wallpaper. That night he came back over to the Marriott, but we knew where his undisclosed location was. Our team had a problem. The general manager was in Boston going through open heart surgery. The rest of the team was holding the hotel. We have 3 gates. There were crowds threatening that they were coming in to get the guests. 2 hotels were burned during this period and closed. Our culinarians picked up their knives, stepped out, and stood behind the security team. The housekeepers came out with brooms and stood behind the culinarians, and the engineers with shovels, and held the 3 gates for 4 hours until the military tanks got to the hotel. Now, when we interviewed our people after that, their answer was simple. We're Marriott. These are our guests. We have to protect them. What else would we do? These people are not highly compensated. The shower and the employee meal is sometimes the most important part of the hourly associate's pay. But they thought that was that important, and they would risk their lives against sometimes people they knew on the other side of the gate. We were very proud. Now, I hope and pray as a manager you never face a crisis situation. But I would hope, even if you're just trying to get your reports done, that your accounting people will care about you enough to give that kind of support, because you've created a culture that truly, truly encourages people to do the best they can. I'm very proud of those folks. They retold the story 3 weeks ago, some with tears in their eyes. But these are moments that make something like the employee opinion survey not important, but clearly they've gotten the message that started with our founder. So I hope as your careers evolve that you enjoy them as much as I have. And I will tell you now that the world is going to be spectacular in growth for travel and tourism, and you're going to benefit from it. So enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to open the session for question and answers. Anybody who have a question, we have a microphone here. Please raise your hand and ask your question, please.
You predicted the Chinese are going to be an incoming guest to the hotels. What is your prediction date on when you we plan on seeing maybe the Chinese?
Well, Chinese visitors to the United States increased last year by 38%, not very significant base. There were more Chinese in Paris last year than there were in all of the United States. There is big demand. I'll digress a second if I might. The other aspect of the Chinese, they have already just bought Rosewood hotels, interstate motor lodges. They are getting into this industry. So we will see Chinese in not only as guests, but investors in this industry. And frankly, it's found money, which is a good thing. But to say when we'll start to see them, based on Mr. Obama's speech, he gave his State Department 90 days to open up the visa process. Took 105 days for a visa interview in China. It is now being reduced to 5 days. So I would suspect 13 you'll start to see the impact. And they'll start on coastal properties and resort destinations, and then you'll see it build. Did that answer it for you?
Hi. This might be a little bit more of a business question, but how do you ensure your corporate culture standards with moving into a franchise operation?
Well, don't think that hasn't been a discussion. Number one, you find great franchise partners. I was waiting for the applause, so I gave him that. But number two, it is requiring us, and we're not the best at this. We're learning from other companies too. You're required to really audit some of the process. But, you know, auditing versus motivating is the key. And I think our biggest challenge right now is to develop strong motivation that encourages the principles that our partners need to institute in their programs, which will take care of the customers. We will not have, I'm going to be honest with you, we will not have 100% success at that. Just as when we manage, we're not 100% successful. But I will tell you that I think the strength of our brand and our company has been some of the values and the principles. For me, very clearly, Bill Marriott's principle of honesty and fairness helped, because I've been working in a field where bribery and negative things happen all the time, and we often walked away from a deal, went back to the boss and said, we're going to have to leave this behind. It was going to be a problem. And he looked at us and said, fine. Some businesses, they wink and say, go figure it out. And I've told Bill Marriott numerous times how happy I am to work for a guy that I know will not get negative if we can't make something happen, if it requires illegal steps. So those principles you want to deliver, and they will be delivered in as many communications as possible, but it really starts with picking the right partners.
What's your favorite Marriott hotel?
Well, I'm in maybe 50 days I'll answer that, but I never answer that question because, you know, if I have one of my people here that I don't like their hotel, that's not good. So I'm not going to answer that question. I'm sorry. They're all my favorites.
That's a very good speech, and thank you. And Marriott certainly led the industry in franchise strictest standards in operation. My question deals with branding, and both global, on your global perspective would be very interesting. Domestically, many of the large companies, some that you don't want to mention, have actually, in some of the resorts, such as the 2 large resorts we have here in Sarasota and other resorts, actually continue to run as an independent, but actually manage without, in other words, the company manages, sometimes perhaps the company even franchises, but doesn't put the brand on a particular destination resort. Is that happening ex-US? Is that happening US? And where do you see the trend?
Well, let's divide it down. We've announced, obviously, Autograph Hotels. You may or may not have heard of that. That is our 18th brand. Autograph Hotels is designed, and I'll try to keep this as summarized as closely as I can, is designed to take a hotel whose brand we believe and they believe has been established. And you could probably name a Florida hotel that I'm not aware of fairly quickly that has been known for years. Internationally, the Plaza in Argentina had 110 years of history. How do you walk away from that? And so this allows us to give to these companies all the services that I was talking about, you know, the marketing services, the internet, and the like, under a franchise fee relationship. We introduced that last year. I think we ended the year at 27, I think was the material we put out. The pipeline is very long. We're primarily in Europe and the US with this. And it is servicing us well because every time we approach the people that own this hotel, they'd say, but my brand, I don't want to put another brand on it. But today, and I'm kind of preaching on this one, today, an independent is really hamstrung, and I'll be more generic than just Marriott, if they aren't attached to a system that includes the marketing services and includes the procurement services that these branded companies can give you. And that's actually what we're selling. So we are moving in that direction. We clearly will prefer where we can to put our brands. But in the United States right now, full service branding is pretty crowded with our brands, and we're grateful. And if you're using them, thank you. If you're Marriott Reward members, thank you. But in the global market, and we're actually up to 555 today open, and another 200 in the pipeline, but I didn't give you an updated number. Well, you were dealing with the information you had. But we have an open running field. I don't want to belabor China, but China will someday have more hotels than the United States. Look at the population. Look at the business. Look at the middle class growth. I mean, it's true. So globally, we've got a lot of room left in front of us. And I think that, again, Autograph and the other 17 brands will be very beneficial. Did that nail it for you? Did I miss something? Okay. Yes, sir.
Ed, the hotels that are being developed in China, all different franchise companies, and particularly are there more select service, full service, and thinking about when the Chinese do show up, what brands are they going to be looking for over here to be looking for to stay when they come here?
Well, when I'm doing a little more classroom work, people say, why did you go overseas? And one of the major reasons we went is that we observed in 1948, Hilton landed in Japan right after the troops and put a hotel in. And not long after that, when the Japanese started coming to the United States, the first thing on their lips was Hilton. We got it. Okay, this didn't take much. So when we started going globally, we tried to focus on the major source markets. And we knew, because it was predicted a long time ago, that China would be the largest by 2020, if not sooner. So we have been taking our brands, but no franchises, only management in there now. And we have 65 open and another 35 under construction. And I'm here to tell you we're not ahead of the pack. Some have been in the market for 20 years and they are further down the road in that market, but we're fast catching up. Our first hotel was 1997. And today we're at 65 with the others under construction. We know that we will get inbound business because they will see Marriott, JW Marriott, Renaissance, Ritz-Carlton, and they will be familiar with them. They will see Courtyard, and we're about to go play Residence Inn. The other brand is Marriott Executive Apartments, which is international but not a domestic package. And we believe that we will be able to hold our own in that market on both awareness and growth. I believe that the Chinese are fascinating people to work with, but have a strategy. And at lunch I was asked, and I'll give this one indication. I've been working on Africa this last year because we did not have enough hotels in Africa, virtually none, except for Egypt. And we've been in that market for 15 years trying to get established and hadn't succeeded because we couldn't get financing. We could get sites and had them, but we couldn't get financing. Today we have 12 hotels in Africa under construction, owned by Chinese, built by Chinese, financed by Chinese. There's the message. In Ghana today, the second largest population is Chinese. The United States for years, oops, I'm on a political soapbox. The United States for years has been delivering weapons made in the U.S. to our allies and a smaller proportion of aid, which has not always been successfully distributed. Most of the local citizenry know us for what the gun barrel they've been looking at, because obviously the armament went to the people in charge. The Chinese go in, they build roads, airports, they build water projects, they put their board up and say, built by the Chinese for the people of. So when it comes time in about 15 years or 10 years when the Chinese population doesn't grow, what they're preparing for in all these emerging countries is to show up with a widget, and the American will show up with a widget. Their widget will be a little less, and they'll sell it. And the American widget isn't going to sell, but the Chinese widget will. They're also leaving large populations of workers behind working in those markets, dealing with some of the imbalance. So they are truly out there, and we as a country really don't see just how skilled they are in their strategy, but they are there. So that was a longer answer than you asked for, but it gave me a chance to express a concern.
We'll come to you. Could you share with us, please, one of your most amusing moments?
Oh my God. Amusing.
I was going to say embarrassing.
Well, embarrassing, I got tons of those, but amusing, I don't know. Okay, this one's kind of neat. We did a joint marketing agreement, which we never do, in Japan because we were struggling to get in Japan. So we did it with New Otani, a third largest company at the time in the market. Mr. Otani speaks nothing but Japanese, and the negotiation was extensive. If you've ever seen the movie, I've forgotten what it was, but Lost in Translation, it's totally accurate. And so we got through all this. We shook hands. We had actually taken this contract away from and so we were very proud of this. And it was quite an event, and they planned a huge event in the major ballroom with all the food and had Bill Marriott come over, and we had the entire executive committee over at the time. And so I was sitting in my office, and I got a call from Mr. Otani's assistant. He said, Mr. Otani is really pleased with the speech you wrote. I'd written this flowery speech, you know, wonderful days, and it went on for hours. It was just, and he says he's decided that you should give your speech in Japanese, and he should give his speech, which is a little short thing, in English. My words were back to Sergeant James again. Oh, goddamn. So I prepared for that thing. I won't drag this out. I had it on tape. I had a lady in the office translate it for me. I was practicing reading it. I got on the United Airlines flight to Tokyo, sitting there practicing, and this flight attendant asked me what I was doing, because obviously I was keeping everybody awake. You know, my name, and I told him, and he says, well, you got a problem, friend. She translated this in the feminine, not the masculine. So we phonically wrote it out in the masculine with 3 hours until landing. And I practiced like I've never practiced before. In fact, if I'd done that, I would have gotten straight A's in college. But I worked on that. And I got there, and Bill Marriott put his hand on my shoulder, and he says, I'd never do this, except, you know, I did the Warsaw opening, and they said I swore 3 times in the speech. So good luck. And I turned around and I said, thanks for the support, boss. So I got up, I made my speech, but thank God the Japanese are so respectful. To this day, I don't know how bad I did, but I'm sure I did badly. But I did see the director of marketing in the corner going, so hopefully it wasn't that bad. That's as embarrassing as I can think of off the cuff.
My question is, I've read in the press about dual levels of accommodation in one location. What's your view on having different standards within one property?
Oh, I hope our developers haven't done that deal. You mean in one building you've got a courtyard standard and the other a full service? Well, you can go visit the Miami Marriott, which we chopped up into 3 pieces. It was originally a full service Marriott. One tower is Courtyard now, and the other tower is Fairfield Inn, I think, and the other tower is Marriott. You can do that if you can define the physical plant appropriately, but I'm not familiar with the article that you read. You can do that. We've got multiple brands. I mean, most of our owners have in same plot of land a Residence Inn and a Marriott, some of those other products and their products. You know, they blend that for utilization. And the big savings to us, and I would suspect to our owners, is that you run it with one management team. I mean, if you go to Beijing, Jakarta, and Orlando, how's that for a combination? Beijing, Jakarta, and Orlando. We run the JW Marriott and the Ritz with the same management team. And we took the page from Disney. If you're in the blue uniform, it's ladies and gentlemen, welcoming ladies and gentlemen. You go over, the PBX operator gets a signal. It says Ritz, she gives a Ritz spiel. It says Marriott, she gives the Marriott spiel. You save a lot of money that way and efficiency, and all you have to do is make sure your cultural teams are trained appropriately. That answer it?
We have time for one more question.
I know we're standing between food and booze.
Short question. I know that you've got a question, and one more question over there.
Okay. Vacation ownership, both in the U.S. and overseas. Marriott had quite an operation, I believe, based here in Orlando. Downsized that the industry's kind of cooled down considerably, as I understand it. Not the case?
Well,
when do your internal and forecasts expect it to?
Well, number one, I can
back?
speak freely about it because MVCI is now an independent company. Marriott spun it off. We downsized as we did in the industry, all of us, no more than that. This particular recession has been harder on timeshare. Normally, timeshare holds up for sales during a downturn. But this was so real estate driven that it slowed down in the timeshare area. What really hurt us was we had just moved into the residences heavily. And that area, in fact, has remained quiet and reduced, and we put a lot of projects in mothballs for the time. I'm still a timeshare holder. I'm a big believer in the product. I got dinner with Steve tomorrow night. But I own stock in the company because it's no longer Marriott, and I believe the company has a long and prosperous future ahead. It's a specialty market product. And you know, when I go around after I retire in 5 years and I call up Honolulu and I say, have you got a room? They're going to say, your name is what? And I'll say Fuller, and they say, what? No. So I need timeshare.
Domestic versus global?
Internationally, actually, the point system that Marriott introduced, we developed in Asia years before we introduced it here. And so Asia has been very successful. Europe has not had the same growth. And we operate, International Lodging operated timeshare for MVCI because to bring over the operational side. So we maintained them, painted them, fixed them, kept them. We just didn't sell them. MVCI did the sales work because it's not our culture. So yeah, I think they'll be around. Yeah.
It's kind of similar to the question she already asked, but how does Marriott feel about management companies that represent or have staff that represent two different, not just brands, but companies themselves?
That's a different question. How do we feel about, help me understand, make sure I understand the question.
Okay,
So
a management
a franchise company that has Hilton's and Marriott.
Correct.
And, well, number one, it's a reality.
Right, that's why I'm
Everybody's
asking.
doing it.
No, I'm saying a specific management staff that's running both hotel properties.
They should be running the same branded company.
Okay.
So if they're working with Renaissance and Courtyard, we're happy. If they're working with Renaissance and we're not happy about that at all.
Right, so where does the company stand behind that? Like how is it possible?
Well, if you're telling me something, I'm going to be meeting you outside for a few minutes. But at this point in time, I know of no such situation where they're using the same hotel. And I'll be glad to meet you over at table number 2.
Thank you. I would like to invite Dr. Guilford here to join me thanking Mr. Ed Fuller. I would love to thank you, Mr. Ed Fuller. I would like to thank you for your time, for your energy, for your support, for all of the insights, and taking the time from your busy schedule to come and share these valuable experiences with us. As a token of our appreciation, we have got something very small for you. If you please accept this. This is the bowl. This is the bear.
The bear.
And here's the bowl.
Perfect bookends.
I will read, bookends, absolutely. I will read what we have here. The University of South Florida School of Hotel and Restaurant Management presents Mr. Edwin D. Fuller in appreciation for speaking at the Linda Novi White Memorial Lectureship, February 28, 2012, with our great appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I would like to thank all of you for coming, and the students, the industry partners, the community here, and staff, and everybody. Please be reminded that we have a reception right outside here, outside. And also, if you have chosen to support our school, and please seal the envelopes and leave them the table outside. Again, we thank everybody for coming.